Thanks for coming to our session today. Ian and I work for different organizations. This will become relevant very shortly.
Maybe just I will.
Can you
All right.
instructions?
So, as any good presentation goes, take out your phones if you will, and we're going to be using this throughout the whole time. So use the QR once, and as we go through the slides, it'll guide through, so you don't have to press anything. You'll see also in there, it'll open up to a Q&A section. While this presentation is going on, you can write questions as we're going, and we can examine those during, after, but just something to make sure that if you have a question that's outstanding to follow up with, we can follow up with you accordingly. And there'll be plenty of opportunities for this QR to appear again on the screen. If you change it, anything comes up.
So our game plan for this session today is up here. We'll revisit it.
So yeah, this is the Q&A, what it's going to look like. We're going to have a spot like this that if you put anything in there that we don't resolve, and we're going to monitor it as we go, it'll come up at the end on the screen. So there's space for it visually, and then as we have conversations throughout. So just a visual reference.
So as we're talking about tools for collaboration, we wanted to introduce you to our collaborative context. As I mentioned at the top, Ian and I work for different organizations that are part of the network. The network is a group of orgs that agree to collaborate in order to reduce competition and have more effective reach for landscape restoration, which is great. We can share programs, but it also makes our work kind of look like this. We engage a lot more partners, we have a lot more work going on, and so coordination becomes very, very messy very, very quickly. Let me introduce you to Ian. Ian runs our network's Fire Adapted Landscapes program. Ian needs a system to track and rank opportunities and mobilize partners around landscape level restoration with all of the partners on that messy slide.
Penny over here is in the Working Lands program within the Stewardship Network that happens to cover essentially Lane County, just a little bit of reference geographically. Within that, there's a lot of opportunity to translate work, grants, connection points with people that have agriculture businesses, a wide spread of things that aren't the typical presentation. And within that, being able to have support structurally in a system of how to receive and give information of who she's interacting with and people in her program becomes really important so that there's some kind of clear pathway going forward. So what we're trying to do within all these watershed councils, land trusts, conservation districts, nonprofits, partners that didn't pay their dues, and ones that are coming through and don't exist anymore, and all these contracts, we're trying to come up with some kind of way to have more concise messaging and more expectations and clarity of when we're interacting with landowners, whether it's Working Lands program, whether it's with fire, whether it's with restoration programs. We have a large suite of people that focus is doing assessments on property for opportunities, and all these different entities and roles within those entities and programs that that person uses that the other doesn't. These all are their own thing, and to be able to kind of collaborate in the way that our network is intended, this is something that Penny has put a lot of time, thought, and effort into figuring out the question of how do we possibly do this better. So before we talk about anything else, what we want to do is have a little bit of a sense of who are you? Who's interested here? So just a quick little word cloud here, because there's 3 other sessions going on, and I'm very interested to see what the temperature and appetite for this topic is. We appreciate you being here, for having us sell out that other venue. We're rock stars now.
It's a really anxious word cloud. I love it.
And we had some kind of thoughts that that could be it. But why assume? We're here at a conference. Some of the best value we can get out of this kind of meeting is not from the people presenting, not from the slides, not from the notes that you don't read that you said you were going to. It's those small connections between other people working on other problems.
Got some ACT words on here.
Is the second question appearing for people yet? Okay, cool. This is the fun one to look at, though.
We're all very positive.
Liars. You should feel that. You should feel that.
Yeah.
And that's available.
Oh, okay, so we're gonna keep going. All right, we have a bigger room now, but we're gonna ask you to turn to the person next to you, nearest you, and discuss what do you think you could use a system like this for?
Or what are you using? Again, just kind of a sense of where are you at? Check in with the person next to you. Wait, I'm pulling up your right now. Because it's funny too, I was thinking that on something that we have, it's a people firm. And then it was 1:30 here, and I'm like, I haven't heard from her. And yeah, it was like, this would not fly for pennies. This does not fly for me. I can't even imagine. So, we're right on. That's smart. Need to look ahead.
Wait, where are you?
So we're here. This is,
Got it.
yeah, 'cause that's fun. So at the 5 minute point, 45. Just because interaction. Been saying like for introducing this. You want to do okay, so you should act, you should.
Yeah.
And then this is asking the question, why?
Yeah.
What are the most important things? And that's the small.
I can do that.
Is that-
And you can do
Yeah. 45 is my marker.
Okay.
Well, I'm talking bigger picture, thinking like a giant. Do you use anything like this? So why should come? Hey. We're also happy to be the. You're ready?
Ready, folks? Can you wrap it up? We'll swim back together for a sec. Some of us know exactly what we would use a system like this for. Others of us maybe haven't thought about it yet or are really unsure. So we'll explore a little bit why you would use a coordinating system or tools like this. Something that we identified was we needed relationship management. You can formalize roles, responsibilities, and define your partner relationships, which is very valuable when you have lots of partners. We also identified the ability to forecast is really important. We're able to make better data-driven decisions about future funding and staffing needs. Collaborative planning. If we're going to collaborate, we need some tools to help us to do that effectively. So a system and tools that help us to coordinate our work can also help us to plan our large-scale efforts across our partner organization boundaries for landscape level impacts, which is really what we were after anyway. And then finally, and something I'm very passionate about, is for sustainability. Project opportunities and relationships become resilient when things change, when there's staff turnover, when there are funding changes. You don't lose those opportunities necessarily. So a key question when considering where to start when you jump into planning systems like this is, well, maybe you should tell us. What do you think are the most important questions to ask when building a system like this?
Yes.
A little lot. You explain what you're referring to by a system like this. I actually don't.
Okay, so we have a specific program lens that we're working on. Here, I don't think we made the decision that everyone's coming in with a lot of different perspectives in different ways of how any kind of relationship management is going to look. So instead of saying this is what we're trying to get done, we're going to go under the hood together and get a sense of what could be done if all of us were on the same team together. So to answer this question, I'm going to ask that with your pair, find two other pairs of people and have a bigger group discussion about what kind of things in different sectors, different disciplines, what are the pain points that would potentially be coming up from what you see in your role in your work. So in the working lands side of things, there's going to be certain specific problems that on the fire adaptation side, I would never think of. But if we're going to have a central system to communicate between both those programs, we only know what we know. And we only know what we've talked about in the network. So being here at an event like this, we have more to learn, I think, from each other than us being able to say we've got the perfect formula.
And so when we say a system like this, we just mean any system for coordinating with partners to do shared work together. What are some key questions to ask at the start?
And as we go further, we'll show some considerations that we're coming across from our perspective. But again, we want to make sure that we're utilizing all of the talent and knowledge that people have in here that we haven't met. So yeah, maybe in groups of 6 or so, doesn't have to be a specific number. Yeah, however you feel, we'll be walking around. And within those groups, like only make one submission that comes up. Not everyone has to do the same thing. It's going to be a word cloud situation like the other one. And yeah, we'll just see what happens. We'll be walking around the room as well. Got 15 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I like. I'm like trying to convert the time. It's like it has the what I usually prefer, but in this instance, I ran it. I'm gonna go join. I'm gonna go join your group. Everyone get group.
Yeah. Oh, I was picturing it like. Yeah, this is. Yeah, me and like. If I have to leave. No, actually. Then. Right. And then on their way. They don't lock them either.
Right. Well, mine, but yours.
Yeah. Planning projects that we're. Sometimes you don't know why they have information before I come in. I would like to know. Our system.
Got a few more minutes, so please wrap up your final thought.
Yeah.
A light reminder as we're talking, it is really important to us, if you can, it's optional, but any feedback that gets in the response here is something that Penny and I are going to take to our partnership in terms of understanding, here's what other people are viewing this topic as. We've already had plenty of conversations about what our pain points are, but just kind of looking at the larger field and getting perspective is just really, really valuable to us. So if you can, appreciate it. But I think we'll just kind of move here. And did that change the question for you? Is it still up? Okay, cool. It can be a little squirrely, so I just want to make sure, not make any assumptions. Okay, so the next part is a little bit more about my background. Before I started my position at the Conservation District, I have done over 1,000 private property wildfire risk assessments across the state of Oregon. And that's different parts, and I've interacted with people on a lot of different levels consulting. I worked with Northwest Youth Corps, where the workforce was 18 to 26, and they were doing field mitigation work. I've been doing work with watershed councils, with contractors that are doing landscaping, that are trying to get into it, arborists, tree inventories, a whole suite of different things, and how to look at project management and an interaction with a certain parcel. And thinking about, when we're trying to develop a system that doesn't exist, that's a unique challenge. And the issue isn't necessarily that there aren't options to go forward. The hardest way to go forward is because there's too many options. It depends on usually the person who has the most energy. Do they prefer in-person visits? Do they not want to talk to people and make it an online form? Pen and paper for accessibility concerns. GIS survey, if they have someone in staff, it looks good, boards love it. Maybe they don't have internet access. Do they just set up a voicemail box in a rural area? Do we have the citizens, residents, property owners do the assessment themselves? Do we bring in a partner agency? Do we bring in a consultant? Instead of talking about all the possibilities, I'm going to tell you a story through pictures. Once upon a time, I was working for a watershed council, consulting, and they were interested in field mitigation projects and also any opportunities for oak. And so I looked at this property in the yellow and I said, okay, I'll take a visit. I'll go in person. I think they'll like it. And this was the assessment form that they had. Okay. Makes sense to me. No problem. This was the way the grant reported it. This is what was important to the property owner. Don't touch this. 0 to 5 feet off of the house is like the only thing that anyone in wildfire, home hardening, anything wants you to walk away with. We did work and had sites across the entire property except for 0 to 5. So this was important to the property owner. Another contractor was reporting their work through before and after pictures. So we were going to do limbing up these trees, make a pile so a burn could be done later, and they have a burn plan for that. That's different. The work was done well, but look what it looked like when I came back. Not putting that in the grant. And then there was the local fire agency that was using the Firewise template that looks really like this. It's very face forwarding. All of those things were everyone's attempt at having an assessment. from red to pink to yellow to blue. That's what their individual assessors all determined as the priority spot. We all looked at the same thing. No one was talking to each other. This was ran by 3 different grants, and the only reason why I knew was because I was consulting for all of them at the same time. and they weren't. No one was doing it wrong, but at the same sense, it's all these tools and all these perfect ways to do it that people have. It kind of doesn't matter. It's a matter of like realizing what's important to your process. What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to execute? So something that was really important with the Northwest Youth Corps, I wouldn't let them work on anything in the front of people's houses because they had just learned how to pick up a chainsaw. They may or may not have wanted to been there, so I'm not going to put them at the most visually sensitive place. Right? So when I went there, people were like, here's all my problems. I said, that's great. The project that I'm working on can only work on this. So even though those other things are there, I'll connect you to the other people because I know about this, but there was no central system. And so there is no institutional knowledge. And that's why I think this system is so important because I'm not always going to be here. So key question number 2. What failure points can you identify throughout a potential process? So we talked about the questions of like the general sense. What could be a hiccup? But now specifically within a system, say it is functioning and running. It is being given to you from someone else. What do you feel could be misunderstood, unique to your role, your work, and your lens of why you're here? The person. You do not have to represent the organization, anything like that. We are here for just trying to understand what things can we possibly anticipate or consider or broaden our horizons for. And if you don't have an answer that comes to mind, that's fine. That's totally fine. So I'm going to have you go move around the room a little bit more. Other little groupings. Stand up, stretch. You're going to be sitting a lot today. We're going to have another 15 minutes to talk about this. And a second part of accessibility concerns. Something that might be contextual to your work and your view of how you could see this scenario playing out if someone imposed the system on you. What might be some blind spots from there? Does not matter how specific or how vague or general, but any kind of perspective that you can share with us, with each other, I think would be very valuable. Yes. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you're all very smart, but I don't know that for sure. So these open-ended responses, it just depends on how clear. We're going to have our contact information at the end, and I have it set up so that I will follow up with people that are interested in the synthesis of this, whether it's valuable or not, but could be interesting. So, I don't know, go across the room, take 5 steps, turn left, make a friend, say hi. We're going to have another 15 minutes for this. Feel free to have casual conversation with each other as well. It's a long couple of days. Yeah, and I think they have enough their systems. Yeah. All right, I'm going to give a 2-minute warning. If you haven't been able to put anything on the QR link for the questions, just a gentle reminder for that. Thank you.
Okay, maybe wrap up those final thoughts and input your answers to this key question.
I'm gonna sit down.
Thanks all for your thoughts on this. So the reason that we're asking you all these questions is because these are questions that we are also asking of our network members. And so we wanted to give you an example of a case study, something that we are currently working on. As Ian mentioned when I was introduced, I run our Working Lands program. So we're out with farmers, helping them assess their properties, identify conservation threats, opportunities, and then hopefully connect them to the resources, people, and opportunities they need to make those positive changes on their property. And so we had the goal last year to ask what it would take to create a regional streamlined approach and tools for landowner engagement that could be shared by our network. So our objectives for this project were to first understand our collaborating partner priorities and their constraints, pilot coordination tools and systems, and then assess their effectiveness for facilitating our coordinated approach to engaging landowners, identifying those opportunities, and then developing projects. It was maybe ambitious. So our plan was this. We were going to inventory all the tools and processes that partners were already using. We were going to discuss how we felt about those. And then we were going to decide on a tool we were going to pilot together. And then finally assess how it worked for us. Easy peasy, easy. And so what we've learned is that each partner is coming from a different starting point for this project. There is a spectrum of formal and often informal processes that partners implement. Many informal processes that partners implement. And there are varying degrees of sunk costs that we're all bringing to this conversation. Some people have actually put real money into developing tools for their programs, which can impact how excited they are about adopting new tools. We also learned that, no surprise, our partners have different needs. We identified there's a lot of value for our partners in map-based tracking systems, whereas for our program, there was a lot more value in relationship management systems. Buy-in emerged as something that was incredibly important. Any tool that we chose would only work as well as people were willing to use it. Likewise, any referrals we would make to our partners can only be followed up on when there's partner capacity to do so, regardless of how good our system and tools are. But, silver lining, we also identified that there is much potential for project forecasting, to write grants and create partner capacity with a tool and system that allows us to do that. We could track types of projects, track across priority areas, and be able to answer the question, what is the demand for different types of projects in our area? Do we have the resources to meet it? That's as far as we got. This is a project that is still in progress. We're gonna have our final debrief meeting next month. After which we'll be able to say how well these tools work for us, and then decide what we're gonna do next, whether we're gonna stick with it, try something else, ask different questions.
All right. So here's some questions that we got. Nope, not that way. Here we go. You can ask more questions. So do we both work for the network? Yes and no. So the network is a collaborative partnership that isn't an entity.
It's not an organization.
Yeah, it's not an official entity. So the director likes to refer to it as a figment of our imagination. But it's a concerted effort, and there's programming and there's funding that goes through this, and there is staff like Penny that is working with certain themes across multiple avenues of those partnerships. And it's also trying to find our way through how do we move forward. Everyone else's situation is going to be totally different. And so I think our situation is interesting to share, just even to think about what if we had a figment of our imagination where people were just decided, what if we did focus our efforts together? What would that look like? What would it look like without having structure and it not being like a formal organization, right? And these are all things that we have to consider at like macro pictures and micro considerations. So I work for the Upper Willamette Soil and Water Conservation District, and Penny works for the Stewardship Network and is officially on the Coast Fork Watershed Council in terms of where you would find her profile on the website. But she's also 1/7. But that doesn't matter. So I also mentioned that mentioning owing dues. That is not within the network, but there are other existing entities and groups and partnerships that coexist that are very commonly associated with the work that we do. So some are part of those networks and partnerships that have formal membership, but not everyone. And so how do we contextualize that when we're dealing with a set number and space? Just all considerations of things that find their way and trickle down to something like this, of trying to have one system or even just advocating for one. I'm going to get ready so we can get next one. Hold on. Okay. How do we share communication, accountability, transparency, skill sets, and capacity? I think if we all had infinite funding in this room, we still can do it. But that doesn't mean that it's not effective, right? So like, what is the measurement of success? What are we trying to get to? And maybe looking at what's relevant to our role, to our organization, to our project, making sure that we're clear in our intention. Something that I failed to bring up with the demonstration of the one property is something that we all encounter. The property owner thought we were all the same group. They thought we were all the state forest. They had no idea. We had all these different forums. We had all these different things. We went like different times. They're just like, you're the ones that do it. They're right, right? Like really, they're right in that. So finding distinction with how we're doing the work or referring work within a really valuable network that is pretty small. Funding, we're not known for our funding revenue. So within that, we need to be resourceful. And one of the best resources we have is each other. So I think any kind of way that we can find cohesion and stability, because with turnover, with there being opportunities in other places, having institutional knowledge and structure within these things really will help elevate the fall off between things. Is it a member-run group? No, it's just people wearing capes. Pennies is flowing in the wind. Can you share an example of the tools you're currently piloting? You want to go to that?
I didn't want to get too far in the weeds because as I walked around to everybody's conversations, I heard a lot about the tools that you're all using for relationship management and project management, and there are lots out there. The pilot I described was grant funded, and then surprise, they only awarded us half of our grant. So we had to adapt it and focus on piloting just one tool. We chose to pilot Asana with our network partners to see how use of that tool and agreed upon use of that tool could help us to better coordinate our efforts and track tasks and make referrals and follow up and do all of those like fundamental coordination activities.
Do you want to talk about anything that you tried? Do you want, so these are, I covered the ones that we've answered. Do you want to talk about any of the other ones that you tried?
That's the only one that we've been able to collectively try so far.
Okay. Biggest lesson learned from the process, Penny?
Biggest lesson learned from the process is that we need to make sure our partners have capacity to be involved in co-creating the system that we use. Because buy-in is so important and because all of our needs are very different and we're all starting from different starting places, that making sure we can take the time to be participatory about co-creating whatever system we use. While it is excruciatingly slow, it is probably going to result in a much better tool in the long run.
Hey, Penny.
Yeah.
How is the network funded?
We do not have enough time.
There's a lot of collective grants between partnerships that supplement each other regionally. And there are people here within the network throughout, the next couple of days. So if you're part of that network, if you could raise your hand. Thank you, friend. And so there's some other folks not in the room here that are going to be here. Feel free to talk to us. Like, the hope for us for this presentation was that there's a lot of things that could be interesting here. If this is really interesting or a really specific point that you want to talk about, like, come hang out with us. Go to the next slide and we can. I have here's our emails, and in the app itself on the top left of the 3 bars, if you press that, it says email Ian or Penny. If you press that, it will make the email for you right now. Just send it so that when you get busy with something else later, we'll connect with you in a couple of days.
And please do feel free to bother me. I have already interviewed several of the organizations in this room about the tools that you use, but if I haven't yet, I would love to.
So are you talking about like maybe the other organizations are a subsidiary of the main applicant or they're a contractor for the main applicant? Is that how you're spreading the capacity?
Yeah. Yeah, it's project based, and then who's contributing with what. So I'm gonna have that, and then just as we're winding down, our session is over. I just have a last question I put in the wrong order.
Notice that.
Did you? I didn't, and I skipped it. It just, if there's a word of something of the theme of
You just did it again.
I know. Where? There it is. A theme of like, how we started was a lot of frustration, and you talking to people, what are you thinking going forward? We have 15 minutes in between sessions right now.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, so we have a break. Feel free to talk to us up here. We've got cards. Thank you so much. We'll be here the next 2 days.